Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack. Welcome to the New Stack Makers, a podcast where we talk about application development, deployment, and management at scale. Serverless Con with Erica. Erica, how are you? I want to just talk with you. Can you just have a talk about your background as an engineer?
Sure.
Can you just tell us who you are first, so people who don't know you will know you?
Yeah, I'm Erica Windisch. Should I look at the camera or you?
You can look at me, look at the camera, look at me, wave to anyone you want.
All right. Well, I'm Erica Windisch. I'm founder and CTO of IOpipe. I am the CTO. I'm a founder, yes, but I am an engineer. I've been in the industry for I don't even know how many years.
So let's go back there. So where'd you grow up?
Oh God. Okay, that really goes back.
Yeah.
Levittown, Pennsylvania.
Levittown, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what were you interested in as a kid? What were some of the things you just like? Where do you see kind of like that point where you're like, oh, this code is interesting, or oh, these things are interesting. There must have been things you started to get interested in as a kid that helped shape who you are.
Yeah, so Levittown was this, supposed to be this idealized version of the suburbs in the 50s. And, so it was the town that Edward Scissorhands was based on.
Oh, really?
Yes. Of course, it wasn't like that in the 80s after the steel mill closed and, the jobs went away.
Right.
But that's the town that it was supposed to be, and but I got really into video games. I mean, I was born in 82. The NES came out in I think 88, 89, and I got really into video games.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next round of speakers is about to begin in the ballroom.
Okay. So we're going to get some announcements.
Please make your way back.
So because we're at Serverless Conf, and so this is a packed room here. And so while we're hearing Erica's story, we're getting a few announcements that between the donuts and the next discussions coming up.
Yes. Okay. So
Levittown was like this place, and the mill closed, and it was supposed to be this idealized place.
But it wasn't.
It wasn't.
And I mean, my family, growing up, it was not, we were not really well off. My dad was a used car salesman. My mother did data entry. And what got me into computers, in part was the video games and my interest in playing those. And the realization at some point that video games were a thing that could be programmed. But art was also interesting to me. And my grandfather was an artist. And he came to visit us one summer with his 486 SX computer, and it had some sort of paint program for DOS on there, as well as QBasic. And both of those things appealed to me, right? It was like, oh, I can make video games, and I can make art, and I can do both of these things ideally together. So what I started doing was I started going to yard sales and dumpsters. And the first thing I got was a Commodore 64 that did not work, but it had the manuals. And I read through the instruction manuals and these old 80s computer magazines. And they used to have programs in the books or games inside of magazines that you would type out.
Yeah.
So I would go through those, and I would write them out and make modifications.
Because as you started to write them out, you can see the patterns.
Yes.
You can see what worked or didn't work for you.
Yes. But I didn't have a computer. Right? I didn't have a computer.
Yeah, that's great.
So I started programming and getting really interested in things like doing poke, the poke command, which is basically it lets you do assembler style stuff on a Commodore 64. But I was doing all of this without an actual computer. And then eventually I got a computer. My parents managed to buy one when I was 15. But then but mostly what I did was I would go to like dumpsters and I would like, as soon as I had a driver's license at 16, like a year later, I just drove around town. Like I went to the hospital. Oh my gosh, I had like, the hospital upgraded all their systems and I took everything, including the hard drives and their data.
You're the second person I've interviewed today, like who, you probably do still have a home full of machines and servers and stuff, or do you not?
So I just moved and I downsized from a 1,600 square foot house with a giant garage to a 800 square foot apartment, and I have seriously no less than 40 servers in my garage that I don't know what to do with. I don't use them; they're off because I'm serverless.
Talk to Emily at CloudRage. Yeah. Emily said that she's not serverless, she's server full because her house is full of servers.
I don't know what to do with them. Some of them are powerful.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about doing some more machine learning stuff, and like, I mean, honestly, stuff is kind of expensive to run, and I have like 20 or 30 like GPUs that I had used for Bitcoin mining back in 2011. So I might use those for some machine learning stuff. I don't know.
So you were like going to the hospital and you were getting this payload of like probably all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like 16 years old. This is like this is the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And I had like, so X11, X386 at the time, which is not XOR, didn't have multi-window support or multi-monitor support yet. Exactly. But I made it work.
Yeah. Nice.
I made it work.
That's awesome.
And then like when they finally added like native support for it, I was like running beta versions and like hacking on X386 and Xorg in the early days because I would just always want to do the thing that you couldn't yet do. Right, I was always on that edge of technological curve.
You must have been like going from these games to like, thinking about things like, what's this Java programming language, and why is it getting such hype, and there was the first browsers, the very first browser.
I mean, I remember I remember doing ActiveX and Java applets when they first came out. I was doing like dynamic single-page applications back with Netscape 4.
Yeah.
Or Netscape 3 Gold Edition with the HTML, right? And we called them layers then because there was a layer tag instead of a div tag. So many things have changed since then. But I was always kind of a little bit on the edge. I got into open source through the Quake engine. So in software and John Carmack, they released the Quake engine open source. And that was the first open source project I got involved in hacking the open source edition of Quake with a team of people. I had also done, there was an art scene, art group, like underground, like online art groups on IRC, and we would release these art packs like once a month or something.
Online art group.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I did
Those
that.
were the days when there were kind of fun communities and you start to really meet interesting people too.
Yeah. But the other thing that got me interested in programming was like, in order to do the art, the problem was the art programs were very, very expensive. So I couldn't afford them. There were alternative means to obtain them, and I became involved in the scene of like developing cracks and things for those applications, possibly.
Okay.
Which also lend it well to when I started working on DVD software. So before I had my first job in hack, right after the Quake stuff, I went into hacking on the first DVD players for Linux. Working on the Linux video project, which was creating the Levittown project, and I was also working on Design, with Design Video Player. These were the first DVD players for Linux, and I was involved in, my goal was, so, okay, other people writing the software. I'm a little bit more junior than them. What I was doing was porting these applications to Solaris, Linux, PowerPC Linux. So like I was probably the first person to get a DVD to play on a PowerPC Linux machine, or actually a big EDM machine. The first big EDM machine running Linux to play DVD was my laptop.
That was a big deal.
And the only reason it didn't work, it turned out I didn't have the right new software. It was just a bug in GCC. It wasn't even a bug in a DVD player. It was a bug in GCC. It had been there since like the 80s, and I just had to write the test case for it.
Nice. Nice. So now, so that was kind of a nerd. That was earlier time before you got into tech. How'd you get into tech?
So after 1 year of university, I dropped out.
Where was that?
Florida Institute of Technology. It's like a seed school, mostly for government jobs.
Yeah.
It's right next to Cape Canaveral.
Yeah.
So a lot of people going into the public sector come out of there. And so I left school, looked for a job over the summer, and somebody contacted me who was they were running data centers, and they were doing web hosting. And they were one of the largest web hosting companies at the time, one of the earlier ones. They were up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And yeah, I'm just thinking here. When I showed up, they had like printed like this much information and stuff about what I was doing already for my existing online presence, and this was like in 2001.
Wow.
Because I mean, mostly the open source stuff I was doing.
Wow. So the open source, being part of those open source communities really made a difference. How do you feel about open source today? Like, how do you feel like about the direction of open source communities right now?
Foundations are a disaster.
Yeah. What makes foundations a disaster?
Sorry?
What makes foundations a disaster to you?
I mean, I was involved early in OpenStack. I was involved early at Docker.
Right.
I was like, I do not want to get involved in Kubernetes. There was a conscious decision. I've been there. I've done it. I do not want to do it again. I hear a lot about, Kubernetes is going down the same path as OpenStack here, this or that, and it's like, I mean, when you get the foundation, when you get the money in there, it's different. And I'm not saying I have a solution that fixes it, but the foundations, like, you get players who want to make things slow, who want to add complexity and bureaucracy. You have toxicity within the groups and cliques, and like there were back in 2011, I was playing with putting now maybe this was a bad idea, right? But like I was looking at doing blockchain technologies inside of OpenStack, because I wanted, back in 2011, because I wanted to do both messaging reliability and durability, but also look at things like how can we run this as a distributed system so we can do things like serverless workloads.
Right. Right.
But those were not the priorities of other people.
That was this reminds me of our conversation we had at OpenStack. Remember that? Remember the new stack warm-up? I did a warm-up.
Yeah, was that Paris?
Docker, it was in Paris, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about containers, and it was almost like there was a disturbance in the, at the Vatican or something, who is we talking about? There was there's definitely this hierarchy that was there and was thinking had their own particular views about direction.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a, I know it's my fault. One of my faults is I'm always too far ahead. Not always. Not this time.
I don't think IOpipe.
Sir, this is no. IOpipe's not too far ahead.
Okay,
this
so
is the right time.
IOpipe is the right time.
Yeah.
I met one of your investors from
Where?
From one of your ventures, one of your investors yesterday from
Underscore. Yeah.
And so, like, well, you must be in some kind of a right place if people are investing in your company.
Oh yeah, that's Richard Delude. He's fantastic. And we have some other fantastic investors from Madrona and NEA, Bold Star, which is a small boutique firm in New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think we're hitting the ball out of the park. And we're also telling a changing story right now of it's application operations, but I'm probably looking for a new term because it's something new and unique, right? We're trying to just figure out what are users doing in those applications on the back end, what's the user experience, is the application doing the right thing, right? Because you write code, your code's always going to do the thing that you wrote it to do, but did you write it to do the right thing at the right time, right? Like during failure modes, for instance. Or if you have an Alexa skill, how many users are cursing at your application, right? Because for Alexa, your front end is a back end application.
Yeah. That's weird. Whoa. That's a lot. That's a lot to think about, isn't it? It speaks to the whole kind of the inverse as well, the server-side technologies, right?
Yeah.
Which side are we talking about? I mean, the server-side approach is really kind of what I think has helped a lot with the movement that is part of this today, right? The ability to work in JavaScript on this sort of stuff. Anyway, Erica, thank you.
Of course.
This has been wonderful. I wanted to have a much more of a conversation about your background. So thank you very much for sharing.
Of course, I know. And we only got covered the first decade.
I know. We'll get back. We'll come back and talk some more.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Listen to more episodes of The New Stack Makers at thenewstack.io/podcast. Please rate and review us on iTunes, like us on YouTube, and follow us on SoundCloud. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.